Hello ladies, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Aisha. I'm a certified trauma-informed coach and manifestation guide, and I am on a mission to help 1 million women become their most confident and successful selves by learning law of assumption and transforming their lives to manifest the life of their dreams. So thank you for tuning in today. Thank you to my subscribers for getting me to 2,500 just before my 1-year channel anniversary. I will be doing a monthly video from the community poll this month, and the topic of that is going to be my old self-concept versus my new self-concept. So every month I post a community poll on the community tab of my channel where you get to vote for what the monthly topic is. It gives you a chance to get the answers you're really looking for, and it allows me to get to know you more, which I really love, because the more that I get to know you, the better I can serve you and really help you, again, become your most confident and successful self. Excuse me. So, today's video is really awesome. This is my first video advertising that our Confidence Club Premium membership is officially live. I am uploading the very first video as we speak, which is a topic of priming yourself for manifestation, getting your mindset right in order to manifest easily and successfully. And that is going to be a member exclusive. So if you want to check that out, the membership is only $19.99 a month. And again, you will get live one-to-one coaching with me, as well as those the live video lessons and members only lessons. So the only way to access me in a one-to-one coaching session is going to be that container right now. Otherwise, I do offer email coaching with pre-recorded video lessons. The website down below is in the description with all of my products, and you can grab your free Manifest Fast playbook and sign up for the Confidence Club mailing list, where I send out tips and tricks to support you on your manifestation journey. Now, today's video is going to be really a fun topic to talk about, and this is something that I actually learned from another YouTuber called Naya. And she's one of the people who got me into manifestation a long time ago. It's been almost 4 years now. Crazy how time goes by. But she talked about, in the beginning of her manifestation journey, doing something similar to priming yourself for your manifestation, which is actually like putting yourself in a different environment that is geared towards your manifestation, right? So if you're trying to manifest wealth, shopping at clothing stores that are normally out of your budget, or purchasing products, like even if you purchase the most affordable item, right? If you go into a Coach store, which a Coach, if you don't know, in America is like a big handbag brand. Even if you go in and all you do is buy a little keychain, right? It's getting yourself into the actions and behaviors of somebody who has a lot of wealth. This is one example of how you can sort of train your brain to become more comfortable around these things. And it especially works for growing your wealth. It especially works for accomplishing things in the physical world. So the other thing this can look like is, let's say you want to start a business. Obviously, as a business owner myself, 4 years ago, I started my business from scratch. I did not know what I was doing. I was so lost, so overwhelmed. I didn't really understand manifestation too much back then. So I was frantically scrambling and taking all of this messy action and just trying to figure it out, and desperately trying to believe in myself. However, because I was taking those actions and getting into these spaces, into these containers, and when I talk about containers, I mean things like Facebook groups and different coaching groups and purchasing courses and such, I reached for what was most affordable to me, which was cheap or free. So I believe the very, very first official business course, and it was actually a challenge, was $23. It was a 23-day challenge, and that was like the fire starter for me. That really kicked off my success in my business. I had been trying to do business for a couple of months by then, and it was just like, I don't know. But taking that action, right? That action to me meant I'm a confident businesswoman, and as a businesswoman, I am developing my skills, right? So even though I wasn't spending a ton of money on that course, getting myself into that environment helped me to feel like, oh, I'm one of them. I am one of these successful businesswomen. And in that container, in that Facebook group, there were people who were already making six figures, and I was staying at home at the time, like as a stay-at-home spouse, being supported by my husband at the time. And like, we were not financially stable. We were not in a good place mentally, physically, spiritually. I was so in a desperate low place. But taking those types of actions really gave me the confidence to take even bigger actions down the road. It created momentum that was not there and it did not exist before. So one of the things that I've done is, in fact, I have gone into those stores in the mall that maybe I wouldn't normally go into, to get myself comfortable with that wealth, to get myself in that headspace of like, oh, this isn't weird for me. This is normal for me. Like the same way that if you were making $1 million in a year, you could walk into a Coach or Louis Vuitton or like a Steve Madden or all the fancy stores, or even like a jewelry store in the mall, and you get to try on the jewelry and whatever, like walking in as though you belong there, treating that experience as though like this isn't weird. And by the way, the very first time that I walked into one of those like handbag stores, I was like, okay, this is a little bit weird. This is, okay. But the salesperson was actually so sweet and so nice and very easy to talk to. And that really helped me to shed that fear that I had. Sometimes we're so fearful just because it's a new experience and we don't know what to expect. But because I faced that fear, because I did something that was a little bit uncomfortable for me, it really gave me the reality check I needed to go, oh, this is another human being. Like, the people who work here, the people who shop here, they're not any different from me. They're not any better than me just because I'm not making the income that they're making. And in fact, if you didn't already know this, not only in America, but everywhere in the world, but primarily in America, a lot of people who are wearing luxury items are considered like broke. Like they're so tight with their money. They're paycheck to paycheck. All of the visual wealth you see, that's all they have. It is surface level wealth. Like they go home and they're stressed and they're living paycheck to paycheck. There are millionaires, people who make not just $1 million in a year, but have $1 million months, who are also living paycheck to paycheck, because it's a mentality. It's an assumption, it's a mindset. And so that experience broke me out of that fear of thinking that rich people are elite or above me. Thinking that I don't belong here. It erased all of those negative feelings that I had. It erased that tension for me. And now maybe this won't be your experience, however, it was for me. And that really opened my perspective to see, oh, if I do this more often, how much more can it change my mindset? So the next thing that I did was I stopped shopping, and this was like years and years ago when I was way younger. I stopped shopping at Walmart and started shopping at Target instead. And if you're in America, you understand that like Walmart is the most ghetto supermarket. Like there are people there who are, I mean, half naked, like, and I really mean like they're in their super short shorts and tank tops. They've got body parts exposed, and I'm not judging. I know ghetto is kind of a judgment, but it's the best word to describe it, really. If you look up the definition of that word, it is what it is, and that's just the reality of Walmart in America. But I never liked that experience. I grew up going to Walmart because that's where my parents shopped, and I actually remember like, it's not as much the same nowadays, but when I was a child, my dad would take us to Target, and he would call it Target because it's Target. And that was his way of saying, this is the fancy store. This is the fancy supermarket. We're at the expensive supermarket. Because in his mind, like, Target was expensive back then. And I think the gap between Target's and Walmart's pricing has definitely like closed a little bit. I think Walmart is overinflated, and I think Target came down to appeal to different consumers. But yeah, so I grew up thinking like Target was the expensive supermarket. And so when I was in my early 20s, I would shop at Target knowing like, oh, I'm shopping at the fancy supermarket now. Like, I'm so well off. I have so much money. I get to shop at the fancy supermarket. And eventually that turned into shopping at like even nicer supermarkets than Target. And even now, I don't know if you're aware that like Safeway is another type of supermarket chain we have out here. Not all Safeways are created equally. Some Safeways are very disheveled and there's like stock on the floor in the middle of the day. Items are constantly running out. The people who shop there are sometimes homeless, or houseless rather. And it's not always a friendly environment there. And then you go to a Safeway that's in a nice neighborhood and everything is very clean and the people who work there are super friendly, and it's a day and night experience. So the next thing I did, because Safeway costs the same no matter which Safeway you go to, at least within reason. I'm sure like if I drove to a Safeway an hour away in a town that's more affordable, maybe prices would be different. But at least in the metro area that I live in, I can drive to like 3 different Safeways. Everything's gonna be the same price. So I consciously make a decision to shop at only the Safeways that are clean and nice and good to experience and fun to experience. And the same goes for all of the other restaurant chains or shopping chains or supermarket chains out there. Excuse me. More often than not, if you live again in a larger metropolitan area, either in a suburb or a big city, you'll find that there are options for you. So pick the best option available to you. Obviously, if you don't have a car, that might be kind of hard to get all the way across town to go to a different one. But if you do have that option available to you, exercise that option. The other thing that I started doing, and this was kind of like not the most intentional, but it was something that when we did get our new SUV, we made that choice, which is to use the premium gasoline. There's 3 levels of gasoline in America, and the most expensive one, like the highest priced one, it's the least leaded of them, I think. It has like the least lead in it. It's the most pure. I don't know exactly the science of gasoline, but I know that it's the best quality. And so we drive a vehicle that we want to take care of, we want to maintain, we want to make sure that it's always getting what it needs to take us where we need to go, and it's our investment. So we kind of knew this going into the purchase of the vehicle, but ultimately, like, it's probably not a good idea to put in the lower quality gas. It just isn't for the type of vehicle we have. So knowing that and making that switch and making that commitment, that's another thing that makes me feel really wealthy. Every time I fill the tank, I'm like, wow, I get to use the fancy gas. Like, I actually, instead of, I have to use the most expensive gas. Oh, I have to use, like, why does this gas have to cost so much? What's even the difference? Like, instead of having that bad attitude about it, I go, I get to use the fancy gas. Like, I drive a fancy car, which really, it's a mid-grade vehicle. I love it to death. Like, absolutely. I hope it drives forever and ever, because all the features, it's very comfortable. I feel very privileged to drive it, but it's not a Maserati. It's not a super fancy sports car. Like, it's a reliable family SUV. And so I really appreciate it. So I like to celebrate that. I celebrate, I get to use the fancy gas. The other thing, and this is something I started to do in my teens actually, because I was vegan for several years. And back then when I became vegan, there weren't all these options. There weren't like a ton of different soy milks and almond milks. There weren't a bunch of vegan butters. Like, I remember when vegan butter came out, like Earth Balance was the big one, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing ever. And it was so pricey at the time, at least for somebody who was on a budget. Like, in high school, being supported by my parents meant like I couldn't just spend money on whatever. I had to fit it within a budget. And so like I remember like having to do the calculations. Okay, if I spend only this on this, and my parents would actually give me a $25 a week stipend for groceries because it allowed me to, one, be mature and take care of myself, which really helped me in my young adulthood. I didn't turn 18 and leave the house and was just like, adulting, what am I doing? I had like a gradual progress of becoming more independent and responsible for myself. So I really thank them for doing that. But with $25 a week, I had to manage that. I had to decide, okay, am I gonna get the fancy bread, the fancy cheese, or am I gonna get the fancy vegan butter? And I remember that. And that's the thing, is it was really fancy to me. It was, because in comparison, the natural butter was cheaper, but I wasn't eating that. When I became vegan, that was a luxury. That was a luxury in my life. Like, to eat vegan foods, which might sound kind of silly to some people in other countries, but at least in the area I was, to eat vegan foods, to be vegan at that time, was a rather expensive choice. And so I felt very privileged to be able to afford that. And I don't think I ever let that go. Even when I stopped being vegan, I still kept those habits of, ooh, I get to buy the fancy things. So now, like, when I go to Costco, there's like, Costco's it's a really giant warehouse chain. But there's, Costco brands, and then there's like the name brands. And a lot of times the Costco brands are actually coming from the same name brand manufacturer, like the factories. But I will still choose the name brand anyways, more often than not, because it makes me feel luxurious. And so, like, I actually just got eggs last week. And like, as I was shopping, I'm looking at like the Costco brand eggs were like $7 something, and the name brand farmers market, like homegrown natural eggs, were like $7.89. And so the Costco ones were like a smidge cheaper, right? Like less than 50 cents cheaper for the same quantity of eggs. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm getting the fancy eggs. Like, I'm supporting my local farmers, which actually also feels really good to support local farmers. But I'm telling myself these things. I'm making these small choices like all throughout my day that's getting me more comfortable with the idea that I'm already wealthy. It's teaching me that I'm already taking the actions. Like, if I had $1 million in a year, like if I was making $100,000 every month, would I buy the Costco eggs or would I buy the farmer's market eggs? Like, I'm gonna buy the eggs that are supporting my local farm. Of course, that's not even a question. So even though I don't yet make $100,000 a month, I am taking those actions as if I do, because it inspires me to embody the state of I am that person already. And that's the whole point of manifestation. So, I hope that this video I intend that this video has really opened your perspective of like, you don't have to make these massive changes. And if you're asking yourself, like, how do I even become this person? How do I think rich if I've never been rich? Well, this is how. These are the actions you take. You buy the eggs that are less than 50 cents more. You drive the extra 10 minutes to go to the nicer supermarket. You make all of these small decisions, and you celebrate when you make them. You celebrate, you're so proud of yourself, you get excited, you feel privileged when you make these micro decisions. And that really encourages you to continue with that and continue on that path and break out of the stigmas and break out of those same cycles and break out of the mindset that I have to shop here because I can't afford anything better. I have to buy the cheap stuff because I can't afford anything better. That is a lie. That is an absolute untruth. And as someone who has been in multiple different financial states, I can tell you, like, make the sacrifice. If you want the fancy bread, the fancy eggs, the fancy butter, if you want the name brand like laundry soap instead of the cheap brand, I remember like switching from the 95-cent toothpaste to like the $4 toothpaste was like a big deal for me. Like, when I was a teenager and I made that switch, I remember it was such a big deal for me. And now, like, I buy the cleanest, fluoride-free, most natural toothpaste because I know it's the best for my body. And I don't even think twice. I don't even look at the price because I know my body is worth this quality. but that's something I adopted over many years of conditioning myself. So your homework, you are encouraged to buy one item or go to a one level up nicer supermarket that makes you feel luxurious, that makes you feel like you are in that state of like, I am wealthy and I am confident and I get to do this and I am privileged, because that one behavior will ripple into so many other behaviors, and then it becomes your new normal. Thank you to everybody for watching, and again, if you have not yet subscribed, go ahead and hit the bell icon and be notified when I do upload. And don't forget about the membership subscription. It is for women only. I know that YouTube won't really let me filter that. However, if I discover that you are a man in there, you will be booted. I will cancel your membership. I just don't coach men. It's not something that I do. It's not something that I will ever do. So my apologies in advance, but there are plenty of other coaches out there who do coach men. So please be respectful of that. It is a safe space for us women to get together in a coaching space, and I will not tolerate anybody crossing that boundary. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.